Motion that we accept those minutes. I read them. I didn't see anything wrong with them.
And I'll second it. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Brian, roll call.
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
and Hankerson.
Abstain.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Bob wasn't here last month. Okay, visitors. I don't see any. We got the other council. We got Brandy, a council member on. I think the only one I see. Mayor, we don't have any other visitors, right?
I does not appear so.
Okay. We'll go into the goals of 2021. Of course, keep spending within our 2021 appropriation. This is already good. We're in the black. I don't think too many people complain. Old business, none. New business, review the monthly financials. Brian, take it away.
Okay, last month we end up with the bank and book balance of $2,181,758.20. Flip it over to page 3. We had outstanding checks of $19,681 and one deposit to transit for $544.46.
Okay.
Any questions on the reconciliation?
I don't.
No, I didn't see anything.
Okay, payment listing. Last month, $228,304.38 in checks were paid out. Looking at the list, I don't really.
What's that Henry Thompson, 19,000?
Henry P. Thompson, that's one of, where's that at? What page?
Second page.
Oh, okay. Henry P. Thompson, that's for one of the, they work on a pump. They work on a pump, it's a pump at the sewer plant.
And the 18,000 right down below in advanced business communication.
That was the last installment on what we bought last year for the computers that were paid for with CARES funding. We bought the council tablets. We bought Office 365, if you remember all that.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have any questions on the payment listing?
I don't have any.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Brian, next.
The next is the finance report. Last month interest was $33.40. Rita came in at $133,000 last month, almost $134,000 roughly. Of course, a good chunk of that was the reconciliation they do every year. They give us a lump sum reimbursement of $33,000.
Well, I'm looking at it, but you know, when they download it, it's okay. There it is. That's better. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. What Brad put on the laptop looks better than what it looks like when I download it. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. When I download, the numbers are all on top of each other and everything. So yeah, what the mayor put on that looks good.
And there's the Appropriation status, of course, we're at the end of May. This is at the end of May, so we should be at around 42%. The sewer operating is catching up with the rest because they had a lot of issues at the beginning of the year. So they're catching up with their expenses. We had a lot of issues at the sewer plant that we had to rent, presses and belts and stuff because of I can't remember, Terry. The issues had to do with the Terrastar.
Yeah, with the solids and stuff. Right.
Yes, right. So they incurred a lot of expenses in the beginning of the year. So it's slowly getting back in line with where we should be.
Yes.
Real quick, Brian, on the sewer, since we should be at about 42 and it's a little above, but a lot of that was budgeted for. So when you say it gets back in line, do we have to look at that? Do we have anything to worry about? Or is it just because we budgeted for a bunch of stuff and it occurred at the first part of the year that we got those expenses there?
Well, unfortunately, some of these expenses we did not budget for. We're kind of keeping an eye on that, Terry and I. We're okay right now.
We met with the team 2 weeks ago, and we sat down and talked through with Brian our current status, the percentage of how the expenses were outweighing the income. We went through what was budgeted for our projects, and at this point in time, Brian and all of us feel that we are holding our own, and that our projects, we don't have to sacrifice anything that we weren't going to for this year. So we will keep an eye on that. We will meet each month when Brian, once a month at least, when Brian does a report for the percentages. If he sees they're out of kilter, then we'll call the team back together again and have another discussion. But we are watching it very closely.
Okay. And there's the revenue status through May. We're above the curve there on every line, every line except interest.
All right.
Okay, then the next is the appropriation status. And as you can see, those the general funds were 38%. There's really no lines that exceed 42%. We're all in line in the general fund. Same with the street construction fund. And of course, the water fund's okay. Sewer fund, as we mentioned, is slightly above the curve right now. Same with the pool fund, but we incurred a lot of expenses fixing up the pool.
Yeah, we knew that we were going to be in the red for a while, but I talked to Brian the other day. What'd you say, you had almost 10,000 already, membership and everything?
Updated, Chuck, an update on that. We've got 16,000 in memberships right now.
That's good.
I mean, you can't complain on that, can you? That rate sounds super. 16,000.
Since you brought up the pool, I have the stats here. I don't have I got the raw data. Memberships 16,000. I said gate emissions right now are hovering around 5,500. If we can just get the water or the weather to cooperate a little bit, we've had
The rain.
yeah. Even swimming lessons are starting to come in, and the pool is starting to get rental requests for parties. So,
Yeah, I seen you have one the other night. So, well, that's good.
So that's really, I guess, all I have. right now.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the financial worksheet budget?
I didn't. I think it makes sense to me.
Okay, the
I did.
2022,
Oh,
go
Chuck,
ahead.
I need you to approve the report.
Oh, yeah, okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the financial reports?
This is Hankerson. I make a motion that we approve the financials.
Oh, that's great. Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? All right, Brian, roll call.
Keller,
Yes.
Hankerson,
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Okay. 2022 tax budget already?
Yes, it's that time of the year. You should have got a copy of the tax budget.
Yeah, I gotta find it.
There's an ordinance tonight, because we have to be passed. Well, not an ordinance, a resolution. This is one we have to do every year. It has to be turned in to the county auditor by July 20th. It's, as the mayor says, it's really a liar's budget. I just put it together using last year's budget right now, because I don't know what we're going to do. Capital outlay, what kind of projects the team wants to do next year. None of that stuff's in the budget right now. And I kept the revenues about the same.
Well, I know. It's just something you put together, just,
It's just, it's an unknown. I mean, this is only June, and we won't start working on this till August or September. But it has to be done. State law says we have to. There's a resolution for our first reading tonight. It can go 3 readings.
Okay.
And we have.
Anybody want to sponsor it? Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
And we got to have the public hearing on it as well, which I think we've set for the last council meeting, or the first council meeting in July, which will be the council meeting this has its third reading at.
Right.
I'll go ahead and sponsor it tonight, so you have me on it.
Thank you, sir. Interestingly enough, I found out other counties actually waive. There's a provision of the revised code that allows the county budget commission to waive this requirement, and other counties from time to time pass that resolution and do that so that we don't have to have this liar's budget. But apparently, our county
Mayor,
doesn't do that.
You're right. About out of 88 counties, about 80 of them do that.
Yep.
Fairfield's not one of them.
Yep.
So other than the expenditures, which we'll get into that later, the revenues are coming in like they should. So I'm really keeping everything the same, that revenue-wise.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody else have any more questions on the tax budget for next year? Okay.
None here.
Okay. Going into zoning software for permits and code enforcement.
I come before you tonight because last year in our budget, we had put aside $7,000, I believe it was, for zoning software. Currently, what I use for zoning is what I've created myself, whether it be a spreadsheet or a violation form or a letter, all of that, which is very labor intense, not so much going out to the violations, finding the violations, but when you come back, putting them into different systems, spreadsheets, and et cetera. So over the last 2 months, I had been going to different webinars and having presentations regarding zoning software. This zoning software would help us. I mean, I guess it's not one of our goals on there, but we've always talked about being as paperless as possible. This software will help us get there. It's called iWork. It's IWRQ. And this will allow us to put the application can be filled out online for just zoning permits by the public. We no longer have to shuffle all the papers around and everything. What they put online would be automatically then filled into a record. And then I would do my inspections based on that, and then they would get a letter back. Currently, the village of Hebron, the village of Granville, and the village of Buckeye Lake are using this software, and they all love it. It will help, again, track not only those permit applications for pools and fences and et cetera, which is highly paper-driven, highly manual, but it also goes to our code violations. They will, a part of the pricing is that quarterly they will upload to this software the GIS information from Fairfield County Auditor for our zip code. They also will include other zip codes as I ask them to, for instance, in Pleasantville, so that everything will be then done. The system's in the cloud, and so we can input it, we can grab it back, whatever, and it's all through the cloud. And again, it will track the violations. It will set up a revisit. Right now, Brett and I have a little bit of I don't know, a numbering scheme. So when I do a violation, then I assign a number to it, and then Brett knows, he comes in and looks for all those numbers, and then he goes and does the revisits. But this way, it'll spit out a report that says this week you have to do this. So it's a very, very good software. The cost of the software for the initial price package would be $3,600 for an implementation and setup cost for 1 year. And then a one-time setup, and this total will be added year one, is $3,600. So the grand total due year one is $9,000. After that, this subscription fee, which is invoiced on a yearly basis, would be $5,400, which was well below what we had budgeted in the general fund last year for zoning software. I would like to order this. I asked finance to ask me questions or to have a further discussion, but tonight I would like to have a motion from someone to go ahead and purchase the software so we can get into the 2020s and out of the 1970s. So basically,
something else cool when Terry mentioned, and I'm still learning this system as well in another municipality, but they go out, they do the code stuff, they take a picture, and then if it becomes a citation into court, the court right there has an account and can pull it up and see, when the initial inspection was done, the pictures of it, when they go back out and re-inspect it so many days later. So, and it's all right there. And like Terry said, instead of shuffling a bunch of papers, it's, we've been out there 5 times and nothing's changed. And there are pictures every time that it tags right on it, and it makes it kind of nice.
And the pictures, like now the process is we take pictures, we come back, we unload the camera, then I have to resize them, then I put them in a certain file, and then when I go to do my letter or my violation form, then I have to copy and paste it into that form and then resize it again so it fits. So it's a very, very cumbersome task. Again, the cool thing about it is that we can get these permits online and, separate, I know, but permit applications online, and it will take away a lot of that passing around of, I believe right now I have 6 pages of paper and a cardboard that says you're good to go. So this will be it'd be great. So,
And Terry, for those,
Mhm.
I haven't done that side of this of iWork yet, but for those that don't want to do a permit application online or don't have the resources to do one online, maybe they want to do a variance application, don't have a computer. The application they do online, we can convert into a PDF so that it's all the same information, so that whether someone does it online or paper, it's still consistent. And then we can enter it into the system in the back end, correct? So that all applications
yes.
eventually are computerized.
Right, and that's a correct statement. If you haven't noticed, and I know it's been hard with our website, but one of the projects Barb was doing for me before she left was converting all of our forms to a fillable PDF. So you would be surprised how many people are using those fillable PDFs right now and basically emailing them to me or Missy. But then again, we have to pull it all together, and this way everything will be in one spot, and it'll be much more efficient, much faster, and I think it's just the way to go. I looked at 4 or 5 packages. This is the one that had both zoning applications and permits and code enforcement. A couple of them only want to do code enforcement, other ones only want to do zoning permits. This brings it all together. And I really like it because they take the parcel information directly from the auditor's GIS map site. So all the information that comes into it is tied to the auditor. So the parcel number, the lot number, the division number, the address is all legal beagle stuff.
Sounds pretty good. And with, spending less time, maybe it'd be more zoning we might be able to pick up too. So it probably could pay for itself in the long run anyhow.
I got a question.
Yes.
On applying for, a chicken permit, what's that, like $20?
Right.
Is there a transaction function where they can get billed through the software, or how is the fees and the fines and all that sort of thing going to be handled?
Well, a couple of ways, because we'll also talk about the new website we're looking at, but you also can pay online for your applications too. So a lot of that can be paid online instead of coming in and handing a check or whatever. So yes.
That's excellent.
Yes, I think so too. And the website that we have been looking at also allows us to take water payments and everything online. They can pay right online. So yeah.
Oh, that's really excellent.
Great. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in council. I am really excited about that opportunity with that website. So if you don't have any questions, I would like someone to make a motion to let us go ahead and proceed to engage this company, iWork.com.
I do have one clarifying question, Terry. Since we didn't budget for this, do we have it in the zoning budget, or is this something that will if they motion tonight to allow you to do it, you'll start, and then at the next meeting we'll have an ordinance to change those appropriations and transfer funds
I'll let
from
Brian
the general
talk
fund
about
in?
that. Right. Brian,
We have
talk
not-
about that because we do not have
We have
money.
we have not budgeted for that. We did last year. I'm pulling it up here. Let's see. There is nothing in the zoning area that's budgeted for this, so we'd have to increase appropriations for this.
And again, to the mayor's point, then once we get that, and then Brian, we can go ahead and get a ordinance to ask for increase in appropriations at the next meeting.
That's correct.
But I can get them
Okay.
going ahead and working on that once we know that we're going in that direction, so I don't lose the pricing. Pricing is only good for 25 days. So, and like with everything is going up quickly. So,
Okay.
So this doesn't need to be passed with an emergency though, right?
not
Well, I
tonight.
think tonight she just needs a motion and hopefully approval to go ahead and start, so she can let the company know it's been approved. So we can lock in the pricing and everything, and then at the next meeting we'll have the appropriations
Correct.
ordinance, which takes effect immediately. So
Correct.
Hey, Terry, I got a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
Do we have any COVID money left?
We do have some COVID money left, but we have identified that
Okay.
to finish up the council room.
Well, I thought the way they talked to them, there was more coming. Since this made it like a no-touch type of a zoning paperwork, I didn't know whether that could be through COVID, since you're getting rid of the human, part of it, where you're touching paperwork and stuff from other people.
I still don't think we know, Mr. Bob, what we're going to be able to spend the other money on. I've been to so many seminars, and I thought by now we'd have the money. Brian's been ready to accept the money, and I'm kind of, I don't know, unless the mayor has a new update. The last one I went to was waiting on updates, so I can't answer that.
Okay. That was the only question that I had, if it had any money that could cover it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
any more questions? Go ahead, Wade.
Not a question. I was just gonna raise the motion that we allow the village administrator to buy the iWorks for zoning and permits.
Okay, I'll second that. Any more discussion on the iWork agreement? Okay, Brian, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Hankerson.
Yeah.
Okay, Terry, there you go.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
You just made my life a lot easier. Trust me.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any more new business? Before we go into when the next meeting will be at, I talked to Brian in July. He's going to be on vacation. And I think you said you went on the fourth Monday, Brian?
Yeah, I'd like to see if we could switch a meeting, because there's no way I can have the reports done by our meeting.
Okay.
is there, of course, there's always the crazy things that come up. Is there anything that we could do it real quick on that 4th? Because you probably need the reports approved, don't you, Brian? You can't wait until the next month.
Well, I guess it could wait because of that. I mean, I just know, it's the June 30th on a Wednesday. The 1st is a Thursday, and the 2nd. By the time I got the accounts reconciled, I'd be very hard pressed to get all my reports done. And by that weekend.
By the 12th?
I would have a hard pressed time getting it done by the 2nd. I leave the 4th.
Oh, because you're leaving on the 4th. Okay. If we don't need to do the reports, we could always just cancel the meeting as it gets closer, subject to if, something in wastewater comes up again and it gets closer and the committee needs to make a decision about what to do. Terry would have that information to be able to say, here's where we're at, here's what happened and what we need money wise. Otherwise, we can try to switch them around, or we could just say it subject to be canceled at the last minute because you won't have the reports and are on vacation. So just another option besides switching it around.
Yeah, I think that's doable. I think I could do 2 months worth the following month. That'd be fine.
Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah,
just go ahead. Okay, we'll just go ahead and cancel the meeting in July unless something really important comes up that Terry can talk about and bring up. Is that okay? Otherwise, we'll cancel it.
And then the next finance committee would be next month.
It'll be
August.
August 9th.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be August
The 9th.
the 9th.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Nobody else have anything else they want to bring up tonight in the finance committee? If not, the next meeting will be August the 9th at 6 o'clock. Meeting's adjourned.
Andy.
Good deal. Good meeting.
Brian, I had that written down on a piece of paper. So
I know you
wouldn't-
did. I know.
All right. Move over. Let's see. Got Chuck here. Mike's on here. I don't see Rick on here yet. Has anybody heard from Rick? Because he usually hops on.
Yeah, he's usually on right now. Let me see.
Look out my door real quick, see if his truck's sitting in the driveway, because I thought I saw him just go around the corner.
They might be rushing home real quick.
Yeah, they're working on the wires today. So maybe he was watching them or got hung up. I don't mean in the wires, I mean in the traffic.
The wires that were supposed to be done last week, that were supposed to be done 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Those
Yep.
wires.
Unfortunately, that wasn't his truck I saw.
He's logging in now.
Okay.
Okay. We did finish finance a few minutes earlier than normal.
Yes, we did.
While he's logging in, Terry, as I'm looking at the agenda for rules,
Rules, okay.
depending on where we end tonight on number 2 and 3, the annexation process and grave buyback stuff. With no finance meeting next month, we would have additional time for rules if we're not gonna, if we needed it.
I think both of those are, while they're important issues, they're not high emergency issues, because the chief and I had a conversation just before the meeting tonight, and I'd like to have the chief talk a little bit more about that conversation, since this is rules and it could come out of rules for next meeting. So yes, I'm very I'm easy which ones you want to do. I'm not hung up on getting anything completed as much as awareness.
Right. All right, Mike, it looks like I see Rick on here. His microphone's up and camera's up but off, but it looks like he's on now.
Okay. Call this morning meeting to
Yeah, I'm
order.
on. I'm here.
Okay. Everybody's here, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6. I got 39. Brian, could I have a roll
Okay.
call?
Hamilton,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Keller,
Present.
Okay, and also in attendance, we have the mayor, budget administrator, the police chief, and the physical officer. So, approval of the minutes of 2012 or 2112, I guess it is. I glanced through them quickly, but I didn't see anything. Anybody else go through them?
I did too, Mike, and I'll move that we accept the minutes as emailed out at the April 12th meeting.
Foreman seconds.
Okay. Brian, can we have a roll call vote on it?
yeah, Keller,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes. Three to 0 passed. Any visitors tonight?
Nope, I haven't seen any hop on yet.
Okay. Well, before my dogs interrupt everything again, let me shut the door to the kids that's playing out in the next yard. Sorry about that. 2021 goals in cemetery project. Terry, have you got an update on that?
I just want to do awareness again. We'll run through to have other discussions about some other items. I wanted to bring it to your attention that a part of the cemetery project is also looking at our rules and regulations. One of the things that we have stipulated to those that want to sell graves is that they need to sell them back to the village. In other words, it's not open market. They can't go out and, like, say, Adam Smith sell it to Charles James, for 10 times what he paid for it, because cemetery prices for graves are very high. But having said that, last week we had a request to buy back 4 grave sites that is in Basel Cemetery. So in other words, they're saying, I paid $300 for 4 graves. I want to sell them back to the village. So that means that they bought them a very, very long time ago. And I just want everyone to be aware that, once we buy these graves back, we will probably sell them for more than, $90-some a piece. So, and then also if Brian has any questions as to how he refunds or how that part of the process would work to buy back a grave. Jeff is aware of what's going on, and he is working on a form right now that we would present to the owners and have them sign. But I just wanted to keep you informed of this grave buyback and that everyone knows about it and that we'll have maybe more of an end-to-end process at the next meeting after Jeff gets his form done and Brian looks at what he has to do to buy back these graves. Does that make sense?
It does. Terry, just to be clear on everything then, so we have a prior ordinance that directs when we buy it back, we only buy it back at the price the person paid for?
Okay, so this is where the complication arises. I did all kinds of research on that. And that is what I was told, but I couldn't find a specific ordinance. But we talked about this last meeting, last year or the year before last. And when the new fee schedule came out for the cemetery, it was tacked on to the fee schedule. And it said any graves that are sold should be sold back to the village. Of course, we run by ordinances, and I just think that we need to have more of something in place that makes it so that we can accept these graves back. I don't know how we do the transfers if, say, party A sells to party B. I don't know how we do those. So it's a little complicated. Does that make sense, Mayor?
It does, and what I'm hearing though is for our next meeting in this, when we have the end-to-end process, to make it clear, we may want to talk with Jeff and just, even if we have a prior ordinance, it'll be redundant, but if you couldn't find it, it may or may not be there, but something that says when we sell a cemetery plot and you can only transfer it back to us, and when you transfer it back to us, we only pay the same price that you paid for it. There's no appreciation or markup or change in value, so that we have something in writing and more recent that we can point to in case someone says, well, I'm going to sell you this lot at, I paid $90 for it and you're going to turn around and sell it for $900. So you can buy it back from me at $900.
And that's in essence what I'm saying. Before, this is something, in 5 years, something new. So we just have to, when we run across those things, and this is the cemetery, and these are the ordinances, that it gets it really confusing. And that's why we have to do black and white. So that's a heads up on that process. And as soon as we get, for the next rules meeting, we should have an end-to-end flow. And then we can ask questions.
Yeah, I think we should only buy them back for exactly what they paid for them. I don't think there should be any appreciation on them. I would also like to bring up, like, the trustees, the Liberty Township trustees have approached me because I'm easy to find. They can walk right in and talk to me.
My office
They would
every
like,
day, Rick.
what?
I said, I'm in my office every day. They could find.
They know me. They're in my store every day anyway. The door's not locked, things like that. But anyway, they would like to clarify the agreement on the cemetery on Market Street. Years ago, who owned what and who did what was a gentleman's agreement, is what they feel like it was. And they're fine with the way the situation is with the cemetery on Market Street at the end of Oak. They would just like to get that in writing so that if a tree falls down across the property line again, like it did before, I don't even know where it fell or whether it was on our property or their property, they would like us to work with them to clarify who's responsible for what. It's kind of like we open graves for them, but we do it for a fee, which is fine. We're getting paid to do a service. But then when it comes to maintenance and mowing and trees fall down and tree maintenance, they would like to get that all cleaned up so that moving forward, we both know where we stand, where when a tree fell the other day, or probably 2 months ago now, there was a little bit of things were said that probably shouldn't have been said. People probably overreacted, but they would like to get that clarified and cleaned up. And we all agree that this is how it works.
And that's why they should come to me. And the other thing, Rick, is that if you go into the auditor's website, you will see it does call out exactly what portion of that cemetery is owned by the village and what portion of that cemetery is owned by the township. But you are, over the years, things happen outside of the village administrator or whatever. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well,
My
since
guys-
then, it became an island. Since then, it's become an island where before the land to the south was not in the village, and now it is.
Mhm.
And their contention is they could literally make us take it if they wanted to, according to the prosecutor. I don't even know. I have no knowledge of that. But it's as we annex and as properties get added in, all of a sudden it's a piece of the township inside of the village. And they would love to shed themselves of it or rid themselves of it. But at this moment, they're not requiring that or demanding that. They're saying, let's just clear this up. Let's clarify this because we're moving closer and closer and closer to where our ownership of this cemetery is an island inside the village of Baltimore.
Well, I guess that's true. And I guess maybe what I'm about to say is why they stopped emailing me about it. I guess for the amount of taxes that everybody inside the village pays Liberty Township, they can mow a cemetery because they don't do anything else for us.
Right. Right. And one of them asked me if we were talking about creating a new township to exclude them from our taxes. I've heard nothing like that. So to me, that was like out of the blue. I have no idea what you're talking about, but they even asked me that.
That came up years ago. Tony House used to talk about that. We can conform our boundaries, and then we would no longer be subject to the Liberty Union or the Liberty Township tax.
Okay. Which I've never been a party to any of those conversations, so I know nothing about that.
Yeah, that goes back 5 years plus.
Okay.
With Tony.
Okay. So anyway, all I'm saying is at this moment in time, they would like to clarify who's responsible for what so that it's on paper who and what the agreement is, because in their minds right now, it's more of a gentleman's agreement than it is a written agreement.
And who do I direct this communication to since they haven't reached out?
Probably the people that have had the most conversations with me would be Rob Alt, Randy Kimmer would be the two I would say that have talked to me about it more than once.
I'll reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I know we talked about this years ago about which side of deed, because we were talking about the little cemetery where the VFW has their service. And I forget who looked into it. I think it was Jeff or someone that said, even that little plot, the VFW don't have a deed to it. We've always, kind of say it was ours, but I thought Jeff looked into that where there was 2 deeds to that cemetery, and he could probably tell you exactly where it's at.
I think the only part of the cemetery that the village actually owns is that little section where the VFW has.
Where the cannon is.
Correct.
Okay, and that's what I've been told. I guess that to them, the only thing that's changed is that the property to the south did not used to be part of the village, and now it is. And so the situation in their minds has changed. That doesn't mean they're requiring that we change the agreement. It simply means that they're saying it becomes less and less of a proper agreement.
Sure. I'll talk to Jeff and we'll reach out to these gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay, Terry, I got a question on that, the cemetery grade buyback.
Yes.
What would happen if we bought a bunch of them back and they be obsolete? Just say someone sold one that they had 4 graves and they had 1 left, and they know nobody in the family is going to use it. And when we buy it back, it's kind of hard to sell one. You know what I'm saying? Instead of a family of 2. would that come into a question sometime down the road that here we are buying some lots back that we probably would never sell in, maybe?
Well, Chuck, I think that's a good question because common sense would tell you that's the way everybody looks at it. But I will tell you, there's a lot of one-off lots that we do sell, either for single people or people that died early or didn't have any other family. But we do sell one-off lots. So, yeah, I don't think that would be an issue, Chuck.
Okay, I got one more question. Of all the cemeteries in town, how many of them are closed and how many are open that we will sell lots to? You know, offhand?
Yes, I do. Basically, if you want to get right down to it, all the cemeteries are open. Now, there was some opinion, and I believe that even with the state, and I'll look because we have to register all the cemeteries, that the church cemetery over on Granville was closed. But what has happened is that there is a resident that donated a plot of land for those that are cremated and cannot afford a grave. So basically, I'm not sure whether the state considers that open or closed, but I'll have to reach out to see what the status is because nothing is closed in the other cemeteries.
Okay.
And I believe at this point, Chuck, to Rick's point, all of the cemetery records for the cemetery on Market Street are held by the township. We don't have any of those cemetery burials.
Yeah.
So everything else we do have.
Okay. And I like the idea of buyback because it's nice to have a record who is buried where.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I like it too. Okay.
Good.
That's all I had.
Good questions. Good questions. More to come on that. Okay, Mayor.
Yep.
I mean, Mr. Hamilton, are you still there? I'd like to move to the next annexation process, if there's no other questions.
I don't have any other on it.
Okay. I'm going to move to the annexation process then.
Okay.
I'd like for us to look at our process again, or review our process when it comes to the potential annexations of property that are outside the village. We did, since I've been here, quite a few either annexations or proposed annexations. In other words, intent if they can get in, they'd like to be annexed. At this time, what we usually do is we just go out, we get a survey of the property, and then we get all the paperwork ready for the annexation, and then the person that's annexing signs, and that's at no cost to them. I would like to see a change in this process. And again, maybe this is another one of those, we need to put it down end to end, where we have at least the cost of, say that if somebody wants to annex, then we would say to them, okay, this is the estimate to do the survey and to do the other things that needs to be done before you annex, and then have them pay that amount. And then once they're annexed to the village, then we would pay that money back to them so that the village doesn't incur any expenses of, say, if somebody just walks. So I would like
Terry,
to entertain that.
Terry, just so that everyone's on the same page, why don't you give them the example of what just happened that we talked about, and
I would like to
let
not
us to say we
right. Based on my conversation with Jeff and based on his direction, I would rather not talk about that particular case. I would rather talk about the process, end-to-end process as a whole, please.
Well, instead of talking about the case and naming the parcel and the person, you can talk about what happened and the steps you went through, though. Talk about it in general terms.
Okay. In general, we had somebody that went into annex to the village. We did our due diligence and went out, did the survey. We looked got all the paperwork around. In this particular time, there was an issue with the survey, which we identified, sent out numerous notifications, lots of hours on Jeff's part, lots of hours on my part. And then the person just decided they no longer wanted to be a part of the village.
And when Terry says we did the survey, we paid for the survey.
Yes, that is correct. I'm sorry. You're right. We paid for the survey and everything else. And then the person decided they didn't want to annex. So I'm looking at changing that end-to-end process. So that kind of a situation does not
Mhm.
arise again.
And my thought when that first happened for everyone was, charge them to cover our costs, but maybe a portion of those, if not all of them, get refunded to the person once all of the annexation agreements are signed. If it's someone that can't annex in right away, it might be 5 or 6 years down the road, depending on where they're at, that's fine. Once they sign that annexation agreement and we have something in writing that they will annex in, maybe we look at refunding a portion, if not all of that cost, but we have that cost held in trust so that if they do decide to walk, we haven't spent, several $1,000s on surveys and employee time that are just lost at that point.
Rather than collect a fee, are we able to make that annexation more obligated? Like once you've signed this, there's no backing out.
Well, the problem is we have that when we get them to sign the annexation agreement. The problem is a lot of the work happens up front with preparing the survey, paying for the survey, getting the legal descriptions typed up and written. It's most of those costs are up front, and then they don't sign for it until the end. I suppose we could. Well, I don't know. We'd have to ask Jeff. I don't know off the top of my head if we could even, because I don't think we could pass the ordinance accepting the annexation agreement until the survey and all of that stuff is done. So I don't.
And that's correct.
It's a good idea.
I hate the idea of, hey, you got to give us a check if you want to join our club. I would rather, hey, join our club, but if you sign this agreement, you're obligated to join our club. You got to pay to get in. If there's any way we can do it differently.
Maybe, we might be able to do something in the middle where when they say they want to annex in, they sign an agreement that says the village is going to incur certain costs associated with.
And if you back
it.
out, you're obligated to reimburse us for those costs.
You're obligated to reimburse us for those.
Yeah, I'd like to find a middle ground where they don't have to write a check to join our club.
Yeah. That could work as well.
Good idea.
That one sounds
because more often than not, once someone starts the annexation process and say they want to do it, they complete it.
Oh yeah.
You're right. And we're signing up to pay taxes. We're signing up to get city water.
Right.
We're signing up for all these added costs and revenue. And I hate to make them pay to get in. If they say they want to do it, we're going to spend this money, and then you back out, you're obligated to reimburse us. That to me is a better option.
I think we could do something like that, because it'd be kind of like when you sign a contract with a realtor or something to list your house, and you pay certain costs if you pull it and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
they're advertising your house.
Yeah. I think we could.
It's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah. I think we could get with Jeff and come up with something like that is workable, so we're not getting that. Good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all know who we're talking about. And I think he should have been penalized for backing out. And I know it's listed now and all that, but yeah, I can see that for sure. So I'd like to go that way if we can.
Good idea.
I think it's a
good idea. Yeah.
That sounds better to me. Yeah, that way. Okay. Where are we down then? Cemetery buybacks. We're already done that, correct?
Yeah, I like to talk about new business so that the chief and I can talk through something with this committee, so we can get legislation going.
Terry,
Chief, you want to start? Oh, did he leave? Oh no, there he is.
No, he's up.
Called Terry and told her that over the past few weeks, I've had this is both observed and through citizen complaints about people mowing and shooting the grass out into the roadway. Usually if I get a complaint, it's from a Market Street. There's a couple people out there that tend to do that quite a bit. There's three problems that it does present. Well, let's back that up. We currently have no ordinance or anything that forbids that. There's a section of ORC called placing injurious material on a roadway. But if you read that, you have to do it with intent to damage, basically. So blowing grass out there, the average person has no idea how much jeopardy they're putting people in. We like to be open and friendly to all of our bicycle visitors. In the summer, during the day, it's amazing the number of bicycles that come through here. We also have an amazing number of motorcycle riders that ride through here. Grass on a roadway, once it becomes, well, even it dry, especially if it becomes damp, is very much like riding on ice. The problem is you come into it, especially if it's on a little bit of a corner, you don't pick up it's there until you're into it, and then you're just along for the ride. So there's a lot of stuff nationally being talked about, especially in the motorcycle world. And a lot of places are looking at different legislation that makes it illegal to discharge your grass onto the roadway. I'm not talking about us going around and writing people tickets for doing it, but what I am talking about is having the ability to go and stop with somebody and say, hey, you probably didn't realize what you're doing here, but you're jeopardizing people that ride bicycles. You're jeopardizing people on motorcycles. Now, a third component of this, and I'll bring this up and then Terry can run with this one. We're discharging a ton of grass into our gutters, which is going down our storm drains. And I think that if you look at that alone, that in itself is enough of a reason to be concerned. Terry, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and thanks, Chief. And this is something that comes up every year. And then what happens is that all of that grass gets caught in the storm, and then they start backing up, and then everybody demands to have their storm cleaned out, when most of the time we go there and what we're cleaning out is dead grass and et cetera. So this would be a twofold to the Chief's point, not only help our systems, but also maintain safety for those that use the streets. And I agree with him. It's not my desire to go out and do code enforcement on people that are mowing and the grass is going into the street. But I think we need to have something on the record so that, like, we do have teeth or whatever, when we do talk to somebody and say, this is what's happening. A lot of people really think that they can just shoot it into the street. I've had that conversation with a couple of people. So I think this is worthwhile for this committee to review, and also to come up with a suggestion so that we could get some legislation drawn up for next meeting.
So we got to be careful. Again, we don't want to do that. And I think if we do anything, it probably makes sense to make it kind of like the revised code versus a code enforcement thing. But we got to be careful as well, because I noticed it the other day when I was mowing my yard. There is a bunch of stuff on the gutter right in the curb right in front of my house, but I'm very careful not to shoot grass out into the street because I'm right on that curve and motorcycles come by there all the time. But it's washed down from further up the road. So we want to make sure that just because someone has a bunch of material on the roadway in front of them, that we can identify that it's them that put it there versus just them having it in front of their house, because I don't want to create the issue where if someone has grass and yard debris on the road in front of their house, that they think they could get in trouble for it, even if they didn't put it there, and they end up in the road sweeping it out. Because it's, I mean, the other day in front of my house, before the big rainfall, it was bad. There were clumps of debris in front of my house. Now it was on the curb, so it wasn't in the roadway, so I didn't do anything with it. But it would have been easy to take a shovel and pick it up. I agree we need something done, because I see the people blowing the grass out into the road, and it gets into our storm drains and affects the motorcycles that just went by, in case you heard it. But we got to be careful how we word that as well.
Well, one of the things I'm talking about with this is that, and you're absolutely right, but the concern is for freshly cut grass, because that is what, once the grass breaks down, unless it's a copious amount, it becomes very brittle, and it will literally, on any kind of contact between the surface, like a tire or whatever, it just turns to powder. The issue is the stuff that still has moisture in it. And it's very obvious when you go by and you look at it, you can tell that half the road's green. And that's the reason I say I don't want to be in a situation that we're going out writing people tickets, but it's much easier to go up and say, hey, just wanted to let you know that this creates these 3 problems for the village and for people that are traveling through. And finally, just understand that there is an ordinance against it, but we just wanted to have a friendly reminder.
Would this be something that might be good as well for a utility bill insert public service announcement? Because it affects not only safety, but it affects our stormwater drain.
Sure. We can do that, but we can do that.
And once we get up to speed with it, we have the police Facebook site, and we've had real success with that, using it to get information out. And quite honestly, I firmly believe that 90% of the people don't have the first clue that they're doing anything wrong when they do that. So I don't think there's any intent. It's just nobody has ever said, hey, this is something you shouldn't do, and this is why. But I do think it's important enough that we have citizenry that are talking about it. I've seen it myself, and sometimes it's amazing how much grass these people can get out into the street. And then when Terry and I talked about the issues with the storm drains, it all kind of came together.
Right. And I have conversations every year about this with pretty much the same person. So, you're right. I say 90% of the people do realize, and they're good with it, but there's that small fragment of the population that does not understand.
Terry, do other municipalities that are a part of your group that you go to for resources, do they have existing ordinances along these lines, and something we could look at?
I think that's
instead of trying to create something from scratch, maybe some benchmarks from different municipalities to see how they're handling it.
I will do that. I think that's a very good idea, just because of all the items all the points that we talked about. Maybe they've already thought this through. So yes, let me reach out to that group and see if anybody has anything to share. Okay.
In the meantime, I think if you see it happening, or Chief, if you were the officer, see it happening, I don't think there's anything wrong or inappropriate with stopping and having a conversation with the person that does it.
Good. We can do that. The only other thing, Mr. Hamilton, I'd like to do is I would like to remove the COVID policy from our goals. Hopefully, we are over and done with that. So I think it's one of those goals that we could remove from our goals for rules, unless somebody wants to keep it on.
I think there's already enough made up on that. that we
Okay.
could drop it. What's
Does that
everybody-
mean next meeting we're in-house or not?
We can talk,
Oh,
I can come to the meeting, Rick. We'll talk about it. I got all kinds of good stuff for you.
Okay, we're waiting for council for that. Cool.
Cool. I'm working. So if you're okay with that, we'll just remove that as off of the goals for COVID policy.
I'm
We could
definitely
say we
okay.
accomplished it if you wanted to put it down that. Goal accomplished. So,
Is that a goal accomplished or a goal survived?
yeah.
I never got it, so I'm gonna say accomplished.
There you go, Mr. Foreman. The only other goal that I think we need to look at very closely, and I know we go for rules and not have anything, and now all of a sudden we have a nice agenda. This is a year we need to review the play plan, and it definitely is a year we need to review it. We are really, our pay scale is just not where it needs to be in comparison, and I think that's why we had some issues in getting people, well, not only people coming to work that want to work, but maybe because our pay plan just needs to be revisited. So I'll kind of wait a couple of months before I throw that back out at you, but I want to keep that on there and say that we need to revisit that for sure this year.
Well, I'll agree with you on that one.
That's all I have unless somebody else has something.
So let me ask though, then before this meeting gets adjourned, since we canceled finance June 14th,
Mhm.
do we want to move rules to 6 o'clock and potentially have a big gap, or do we just want to say rules will start at 6:45 for the next meeting? Since we're not planning on having finance.
Personally, I'd just soon move it up to 6 o'clock, Mayor.
And have a big meeting, have it start at 6, and then we don't have council till 7:30.
Yeah, that's a big gap. I don't know why we would do that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we
Yeah,
have the budget hearings at 7:15
On the 14th?
on the
not
12th.
14th.
As I say, today's the 14th.
Yeah, but Brian, we're talking, okay, so we've got that at 7:15, but maybe we say rules starts at 6:30?
Sure.
That'll work. I'm flexible.
So, I mean, if we started at 6:30 and we end at 7:15 like it is right now, and that's when the budget public hearing starts, council can drop off and grab refreshments and stuff like that before council starts while we have the meeting on and off. Not that I'm anticipating a bunch of people showing up for that one, but someone will at least be on. But that way it's not as big of a gap as if we started at 6.
We're gonna have our next meeting at 6:15 on
6,
July the.
6:30, 6:30, Mike.
6:30.
All right, I'm going the wrong way then.
Yes, you are.
Was it July the 12th then? Or the,
Yep.
So finance is after rules now?
No, we're going
No,
to cancel it.
Yeah, finance was canceled for next month.
Oh, okay.
anything else need to go over then? Have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Foreman moves. Seconds then. Foreman seconds.
Who got in there first, Chuck?
Yeah,
Brian, can we have a roll call?
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
yes.
Hamilton.
Yes. Meeting adjourned then at 7:17.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
will pause. Yep. Pause the recording, stop the stream.